Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and good Yontif. It's very unusual to speak with a sage at my feet here, but we'll give it a shot. I have a challenge for everybody this morning, and hold on. And I need your help, so let me share it with you. As you know, and by the way, Rabbi Drash introduced us to the idea of Shir HaShirim, so just keep that in mind. As you know, on special holidays, we read additional books from the Hebrew Bible to enhance the holiday. So for Purim, we read the Megillat Esther, and for Tisha B'Av, we read from the book of Echa, we read Lamentations. And those books make sense with the holiday. So for Purim, we read about Esther. For Tisha B'Av, we read Lamentations. So there's a fit. It connects together. On Passover, however, the connection between the holiday and the book to be read is somewhat puzzling or challenging. As Rabbi Drash mentioned, we read on this Shabbat of Passover, Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, which is a wonderful book. And he mentioned to you that the rabbis interpreted it as an allegory between God and the people of Israel, which is wonderful for Shabbat, that we're reintroducing ourselves to our tradition. A little bit harder to explain the connection to Passover, and that's why I want to explore a little bit. People may not be familiar with some of the verses of Shir HaShirim. Even though we read the Hebrew, I'm going to read a little bit of the English, just for us to get a taste of it. And remember what our question is. What does this have to do with Passover? Shir HaShirim. So, I'm on page 7 in our Siddur, if you want to just follow in the English. This is from chapter 1. May he kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. Your love is sweeter than wine. How sweet the smell your ointments, what a fragrant perfume your name, how maidens so love you. Pull me toward you, let us run together, let the king bring me to his chambers. I'm going to the next page. As the king lies down, my perfume spreads its fragrance. My lover is like a spray of myrrh lying on my breast. My beloved is a garland of henna in the vineyards of Ein Gedi. You are beautiful, my beloved. You are beautiful with eyes like doves. You are handsome, my beloved, oh so graceful. Our couch is a flourishing garden, the beams of our house, the cedars, the rafters, the cypresses. I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valley. Like a lily among the thorns, so is my beloved among the young women. Like an apple tree in a vast forest, so is my beloved among the young men. In its shade, desire grew in me, and I lingered, its fruit sweet on my tongue. And then it goes on, and I brought in chapter 7, and we have young people here, so I'm not going to read all of it, but I do want you to know in chapter 7 that literally somebody's looking at somebody else, and by the way, this is not male or female, whatever, it's love. It's about love. It's about love between people. And people are described literally from their feet all the way up to their head. So that's part of Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs. It is clear, by the way, that our book in the Bible represents love poetry, which existed in the ancient Near East. I don't know why we wouldn't think that people thousands of years ago fell in love and thought about it and wrote poetry about it. They did, and we have that reflected in our Bible. Most interestingly, there was a debate among the rabbis. There are a number of books, as you know, just as an aside, that some make it into the Hebrew Bible, some do not. We'll just stop there. That's another wonderful sermon to be given. What got in and what didn't. And in this case, What do you think the rabbis who were opposed to this book are saying? What do the rabbis who are opposed to this book say? It's all about kind of sensuality. It's sexuality. By the way, like the book of Esther, God's name is not mentioned here. There are no moral principles that we can quote. So the rabbis who are opposed to this are saying it's love poetry and it's nice, but it doesn't belong in the Bible. You have, on the other hand, other rabbis who say, well, you're not understanding it. It's not really love poetry. I mean, it is, but as we said, it's an allegory describing the love between the people of Israel and God. And so they take a vote and they allow it. And among the people who are advocating for this is the great Rabbi Akiva. And I hope you're familiar with his name. I'll give you a history in a second. Yet others, such as the great Rabbi Akiva, not only permitted it, but he praised it. So here's a quote from Rabbi Akiva about the Song of Songs. For all the world is not worthy as the day on which the Song of Songs was given to Israel. For all the writings are holy, but the Song of Songs is the Holy of Holies. So not only is Akiva saying, I endorse the Song of Songs, but he's doubling down, he's tripling down to talk about the value of this literature. Our question this morning and our challenge is, why did Akiva say this? What message was he giving to us on Passover? By the way, what are the references to Akiva? You know this, kind of sad context. High holidays, the martyrology, what do we read about? Akiva is captured by whom? By the Romans, and tortured, and the literal torture of Akiva is described. No, we read it on Yom Kippur. And as he's dying, his flesh is being raked off, he says the Shema. So that's Akiva. Okay. So I need some help this morning. Let's try and get into the mind of Rabbi Akiva on this last seventh day of Pesach. Why did he double down and say the Song of Songs is the holiest of holies of all the books in the Hebrew Bible? Our first thought might be that Rabbi Akiva is acknowledging here that it might be difficult for people to relate to a God of infinity and universality. We talk about God being omniscient, omnipresent, etc. And that simply might be hard for people to relate to. So Rabbi Akiva here is using the love poetry of the Song of Songs as an example of how we should be feeling toward the Creator. So what Akiva is saying to us is the following. Have you ever been in love? That's what he started. Now, I say that, and I don't want to say that flippantly. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe there are people who haven't been in love, it's okay. But what Akiva is saying is, this is my paradigm. And not just in love that you say, oh, I've been married 50 years, I'm in love, but the beginning of that, the beginning of the courtship. And if you've been there, you know what that means. I have to be with this person no matter what. I'm willing to travel great distances to be with that person. So what Akiva is saying is this is a concept that people can relate to, this being in love, the height of that. I'll quote from the Song of Songs. Oh, give me the kisses of your mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine. So now what the rabbi says is, Rabbi Akiva, once you have a concept of that love, we're going to direct it to God. And that's going to be the nature of our relationship with the Almighty. Tell me whom I love so well, I'm quoting now, where do you pasture your sheep? Where do you rest at noon? Let me not be as one who strays besides the flocks of your fellows. Now, ironically, I quote this often. We say the Shema V'Hafta, we said it a while ago. How should we love God? All our hearts, all our souls, all our minds, which is fine, but those words may be a little bit intellectual. What Akiva is saying, I have a better example for you. This intense love is how we should love God. By the way, the love, as we know, this heavenly love, as our earthly love, can be painful at times. Next week, we observe Yom HaShoah, and we have to talk about people who died in the Holocaust. And as I mentioned to you, Rabbi Akiva was tortured. As we conclude Pesach, Rabbi Akiva challenges us to spend some quiet time in contemplation of that idea. He also challenges us to make that leap of faith and believe. Oh, who you linger in the garden, a lover is listening. Let me hear your voice. Hurry, my beloved, swift as a gazelle or a young stag to the hills of spices. I was thinking about that leap of faith, so I want to paint a picture for you. I was trying to come up with the concept of how do I explain it to myself, what Akiva is trying to ask us to do on Passover. And you'll tell me after services if you think that's good for us to read on Passover, Shir HaShirim. So here's a military story which explains the leap of faith that I think Akiva is talking about. That's why I came up here. I'm in the Navy. I'm sitting in the chaplain's office at the United States Naval Academy. Next to us is a swimming pool, and as part of the swimming pool, the midshipmen have to jump off a high board. Why? God forbid you're on a ship, the ship's on fire, you have to jump. So I don't know how far up we go, but the board was 15 meters. How high is that? 15 meters, 45 feet. So I think it takes us to the stained glass up there. So that was the building next to us, and the midshipmen routinely had to jump off the high board, and they had to swim a certain amount of time before they could move on. That was part of their training. So one day I'm sitting in the chaplain's office, and midshipman comes in. I need to speak to a chaplain. I'm here. He says, sir, my name, I forgot his name. He said, I have a problem. What's your problem? I'm afraid to go off the high board. And this is my second time. And the first time they gave me extra training, and they're working with me. But if I don't jump, I can't pass. I have to drop out of the academy. So I counseled him as former lifeguard. You can do it. Just close your eyes. You can do it. He says, sir, will you come with me? Will you walk me in? Oh, okay. So we walk in. Now, of course, when you're standing here and looking up, your eyes are kind of wherever you are, 6 feet, and you're looking up, it doesn't look that high. So I'm telling him that it's okay. He says, sir, can you accompany me? Will you walk up with me to give me the courage? So, of course, now I have to ask the instructor. I'm the chaplain coming in from left field. Instructor says, sure, you go up there. Now, I'm the kind of person that will never clean the leaves off my roof because too high for me. I get too dizzy. So I very gingerly, and of course there's a ladder, and then there's the board, and then you jump. So I climb up the ladder, and I'm at the top, and I say, okay, midshipman, come on, I'll stay here, and you'll walk and jump. And he comes up, and he's shaking, on and on and on. He says, I can't do it. I said, we're here. we're at the ladder. He's got to jump. He said, sir, there's tears coming down his face. If you'll jump, I'll jump. What do I do now? In a million years, you couldn't have paid me to jump. But, now at this time, I must tell you, the rest of his class that had jumped is standing around. So we have an audience now. We have a whole audience of people to see, will the chaplain jump off, and then the other guy is going to jump off. Well, I honestly walked to the edge of the board. I shouldn't have looked down. I looked down, and it seemed like I was on the top of the Empire State Building. That's how high it was. Picture this, where, again, way up there, board down. I said the Shema. I closed my eyes, and I jumped. And then eternity later, he hit the water. The kid jumped after me, thanked the Lord, and he passed, etc. That was the leap of faith into the unknown that I think Rabbi Akiva is telling us, that the love that is expressed in the Song of Songs is a deep, emotional, visceral love where you close your eyes, you say the Shema, and you take a leap. It's not intellectual. It's emotional. It's visceral. But I must tell you, at the end of the day, it's meaningful. And I think Rabbi Kiva is telling us on this new year, Pesach was a new year, that spring is coming, is here. It's time to ask ourselves, where are we? Are we in the pool? Are we in the building? Are we starting to climb the ladder? Are we on the board? Are we on the edge? And are we ready to take that leap? God, my friends, our lover, according to Shir HaShirim, is there waiting for us. Our lover God is listening. Will God hear our voice, our desire? Are we ready to take the leap? Your rabbis will take it with you. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach.